Welcome to the project, everyone. As you saw from that dramatization I did there, we do have a mini fridge in the shop. Nice little Red Bull mini fridge, and this is our project today. So I've had this for a while. Granted, I haven't had it plugged in, and I kind of need to now that it's getting so hot. It is like this whole next week supposed to be like 100 degrees constantly, and like the shop sucks for installation and we don't have any AC in here. So this is kind of our cold drink fridge. So I have done some modifications to this, so let me pull it out and then I'll show you what I've done to it and then what we need to do to it in this video. So to give you a little overview of this fridge, so yeah, it's a Red Bull fridge. We've got some fun little decals on the side. We got glass here on the front with some lights on the inside there. And here's the back side. Pretty boring. So I got this for a pretty dang good deal. And I really want to make the shop into a place where my wife will want to come hang out. So I figured if we had cold drinks in the shop, that would not only help my productivity, but, you know, maybe my wife will want to come hang out with me. So let me show you what I've done to this. I will say there's a little bit of crack here, but so there's lights across the top here and lights down there. So I added in these little switches right there, and I'll show you inside here real quick. So this was before this is before Ready Set Projects was even a thing that I did all of this, but this whole backside was kind of yellowed from it being like on so much. You can see where the light, I think it's UV. This tube right here just kind of yellowed this whole thing a bit. So I did sand this down and try to get some of the yellow out of it. That's one of the things I did. And you can see here we have these three ballasts, is maybe what they're called. They're to run each of the fluorescent tubes. So we got one down the side, one down this side, and then one for the back up here. So what I did was I wired in two switches here so that way we can turn on and off these ones, because I wanted to be able to run the fridge and not just have it spewing light all the time. So then I can turn off the lights, or I could have just the inside on, or, you know, and then when friends come over I can turn it all on to show off. So I wired in a couple switches, and I cleaned up the back panel there, and let me show you what I did next. Let's put this back. So the other part of what I did to this thing is along the back here. So if you didn't know how refrigerators and stuff work, essentially you have a side that gets cold and a side that gets hot. So as you can see with these venting here, this is the side that gets hot. So we remove the excess heat from here, and then the cold will be put inside. I don't know if that's a good explanation. It gets a bit more complicated, but like here's your pump, and then essentially there's heat in this radiator that needs to be expended out. So you do want to be careful like where you put this, that there is some airflow so that you can get some heat out from this. And whatever environment you're in, you're going to generate some heat. But, you know, that's the price you pay for a cold drink. And you do want to be careful. A lot of pumps, you don't want to ever like lay on its side or do anything like that, because there's oil down at the bottom typically. And if it gets elsewhere or starts plugging up your lines, then that can be a really big issue. So what happened is when I got this thing, it would make a racket. Not all the time. Sometimes it would just make a horrible whirling sound, is maybe what you could say. Like a wah, like a buzzing almost. And what it came out to be was this fan right here was actually like completely shot. So all the bearings were bad. And so sometimes the fan would run smoothly, but other times it would start wobbling all around. And I don't know what that's called, but you know, it's like if you have loose bearings, the whole thing might start doing that. So I went in and I replaced this fan right here, and I made sure that like the oil wasn't clogging up the system, and I just kind of like went over everything and actually cleaned it pretty well. And then there's one last thing, modification that I did to this sucker, and that is down here on the bottom. So on the bottom here, there were no feet, and I forget where I got these feet from, but I did find some feet that kind of screw in, because before there were some brackets over here that were just rubbing across the ground. So now we do have some little metal feet, so we can feel fine kind of sliding across the ground without destroying any of that. And that's really what I did to this thing. So let's get into what we need to do to this thing now. First, let me show you our switches here. So I had one that turns on and off the entire system, and another one that can turn off the lights down there. So that way I figured typically, you know, I could just leave it on with this little banner lighting up the shop a bit, but if I wanted, then I can see what's inside. Or I could just turn off the lights completely. What we're gonna be doing today is actually inside here. So I'll bring the microphone in so you guys can hear this, but the outside is pretty quiet, but the inside, rattles quite a bit. And from what I can tell, I bought one fan and I replaced it on the outside. I think what it is that there's another fan that's also just destroyed, and we need to replace the fan on the inside now. And I'm not exactly sure how to get to it, so it'll be a bit of an adventure, but let's figure it out. Should probably unplug it first. So, I want to get it up on the bench. How best can I go about that? Okay, so looking around in this thing, it looks like the fans are actually up here with some foam insulation or something. So yeah, let's try taking out those two big screws. Oh, those are really in there, holy moly. Don't know if this is ever meant to be taken apart. Well, let's get this rack out at least. Now that we've taken this apart, we can actually see how this works. So there was fans right here across the top, and the fans, I'm guessing, draws the warmer air inside the cabinet up, and hopefully you guys can see this, but there's actually a radiator up here. So that's like the cold side radiator, and it draws the air across the radiator, and then it comes down and out through these. So this is just to kind of help distribute the air and come out the bottom, and then on each of these, on each of the racks here. So yeah, fans draw in, get cold air gets diverted through these holes and through the bottom. So I didn't actually need to take that apart, I just needed to unplug that. So let's look at the fans. here's the fans, and the model number on these guys are RAM 8038S2. And they're from X-Fan. So I looked it up, and X-Fan just seems like a industrial fan. Like they don't sell like on Amazon or anything. They're just, you know, to the manufacturer. And I do have the spec sheet, but we'll go over that in a second. I did figure out the 8038 is because if we set this here, these fans, they're just about 80. They're 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters by 38 millimeters for their overall dimensions. One of these fans is definitely louder than the other. I'll just replace both for them. But yeah, we'll see. This guy right here is definitely louder, and I think this is the best way I can see about it, or try to show you. Hopefully you can hear it. This fan is definitely a lot louder than that one, and when you spin it, you can hear it kind of like click, like almost like it's going over a thump. And I'm looking at the data sheet. Use maybe my zip tie. Right here, it's RAM 8038S2. So we know that these fans are a sleeve bearing system, not a ball bearing. Yeah, 120 volts input. They're 0.1 amps. This started confusing me. I think it's saying it goes worst case 9 watts down to 7 watts. And then they should spin anywhere from 2300 RPM to 2700 RPM with the noise of 26 to 30. And that'll give us a CFM of 21 to 26. And they're 340 grams. So this is X-Fan, and this is the same thing that happened last time I tried to do this, because the fan on the back, the bearings were also blown on it. So looking on Amazon, I was able to find from AC Infinity is the fan that I put on there, and I didn't do as much research as this, but I decided to see how closely the specs can match. So the fan that I'm going to replace it with, and we'll look at it when it comes in, is the LS8038A-X, and it's going to be ball bearings instead of sleeves, so hopefully it should last a little bit longer. It's also, you know, 120 volts, 60 hertz, and then the wattage on it, I saw it anywhere from 7 to 4 watts, which kind of makes sense. I mean, that's right around that one. They said the fan RPM is 2,000 rotations per minute. So up here, 2300 to 2700, so the fan's spinning a little bit slower. And the fan is 28, which is still within the 26 to 30 of these old fans. And it's 23 CFM, which they said 21 to 26. So the CFM is the amount of air that's going to push is in the same specs. The noise is going to be about the same. It's going to spin a bit slower and maybe a little less watts, maybe. I don't know how much I trust that. But overall, it should be a decent fit. It should just bolt right up, and I'll show you when we get them. We got mail. Axial fans from AC Infinity. So, looking at this, oh look, they even come with little mounting hardware. They're longer than the ones that came on there. Okay, let's see. Alright, perfect dimensions. There we go. So, these fans, they come with like a plug for the wall that comes in like this. Or I guess you could do like that. There we go. And this one's just wired directly in. So we got 2 of them. They come with little fan protectors so you don't stick your fingers in there, but we have them on there, so we don't need these. I'll test these out real quick and let me show you what they sound like. Okay, so here's my sketchy way to show you them running. So we plug it in. You can see, there we go. They click on. I might be able to show this. Hopefully you guys can hear how noisy that guy is. And he's not too bad when he's standing up, but when he's on his side like that. Yeah, so that's pretty noisy. And then in contrast, here's these guys. Yeah, these are nice and quiet. So now we just need to figure out how to connect them. These feel like the same style connectors for like old RC car batteries. Okay, and then I just got some of these butt splices, 600 volt rated. Should be just fine for these. All right, there we go. We have the new fans in. If I haven't said this, I'll put the links for these fans down in the description. Now we just need to remember how exactly this went in here. I guess I should go back and look. I want to say it was like this, but no, it's like this. So let's plug these in. No smoke, please. Hey, they both kicked on. Yep, I can feel them sucking in air. And it's a lot quieter, so let's go. Oh, this is great. I like it. Let's get the racks back in and stack her up. Or should these go... Do they want to go this way around? So that way we have a lip? Maybe. So I will say, don't shock yourself. I just know these screws are only going into like some insulation. So typically don't work on things while it's powered on. It's so quiet. All right, well, we're gonna let this run for a bit and we'll come back. Okay, so after a few hours, actually letting it go overnight, now we're down to 38 degrees. I think that's a great temperature for this. I am a little concerned just because the shop is so hot all the time. I need to have a better way to actually cool down the shop because I do feel there is a bunch of heat coming out, so it is working. It's just I'm making the fridge work a lot harder than it should just because of how hot the shop is. But You know? But I think that calls this done. Simple little project. You can see it finally kicked off. It's nice and cold inside. It's also quiet. Well, I think this calls this project done. It's nice and quiet. We can have cold drinks now. And it's on to the next one. So glad you guys could come. Hope you hit the subscribe button so you come on the next project. But until then, hope you guys have a great day. And we will see you. Bye.